Sukkot, just to let you know.
Everybody want to scoot your chair over a little bit with your microphone as well?
Are you guys like team not Sukkot?
I got some. All
I
right.
have Sukkot too.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 21 of the Table Talk podcast. I was about to say.
Oh my God, we're all matching.
I was about to say Table Talk, like the movement, but we don't.
We're
we
on
don't do
Monday
that.
right now.
Yeah.
We're on Monday Manic.
Yeah. So this is Honest Abe's Monday show. What is it called again?
We call it Abe's Honest Hour.
Abe's Honest Hour,
I
right?
love
So,
it.
you know, we try to get, well, actually, it worked out for both of us that we got him on a Monday, which worked out very well. And so, hopefully, you know, this is Abe's in the building. Listen, we're going to have a great show for you guys today. We have a lot of stuff to discuss. We are going to be talking about, you know, leadership, what it takes to be a leader, you know, what made Ibrahim go into the political world. We're going to talk about, you know, some of the concerns that are happening in the courtroom these past couple weeks and just in general, how residents are being treated in the courtroom. And we're going to just discuss what's going on in Yemen. There's a protest happening this Friday, and we're going to let Ibrahim talk more about that as well. I'm sure he knows more about it than any of us over here. And we're going to just talk about, again, being a leader in the community and all that other good stuff. You know, I have the comments over here next to me. Feel free to comment any question that you would like to ask Ibrahim Aiyash. We are here for it. And so before we get started, though, you know, we got to give a shout out to the sponsors. And the first sponsor I'm going to start off with is Give to Gain, which ironically is a sponsor and that donates 100% of its donations all goes to the less fortunate of the people in Yemen. So if you ever want to donate, that is one option for you is Give to Gain. People wondering why Yemen, we're going to learn more about why Yemen today. But it is the largest humanitarian crisis and aid operation. 5 million people are at risk of famine. 15 million people need water or sanitation support. And all this stuff was happening before these last week or so that's been going on in Yemen. Aggressive stuff that's been happening in Yemen. So if you want to donate, their Venmo is @give2gain. Zelle is 313-445-8638. And their Cash App is the money symbol give2gain. So if you're looking to donate, obviously you can donate through those three different places. And without further ado, first of all, obviously we have the co-host Shema Ghalib in the building rocking her Yemen shirt. And then we have Abir Thabit's big sis in the building as well. And we had a great conversation last week about the Bosnian-Serbia conflict going on. Very informative. And we'll enjoy doing this stuff, you know. We enjoy informing the public whatever it is that's happening in the world, right? Absolutely. And so we were like, hey, who is the guy that knows what is going on, especially, I mean, first of all, in the world, right? But
you're giving me way too much credit.
Oh man, you don't know the credit that's about to be coming your way today, all right? There's gonna be a lot of credit.
Flowers where flowers are due.
Yes,
yeah.
All right. There's gonna be extra credit, all right? So there's gonna be extra credit given out today for sure. So getting this guy Ibrahim Aiyash on the show. First of all, we've done an interview on Motivate Me 313 in the past. Great time that we had, great conversation, and we were like, you know, we had to get him on the show again, right? We had to get him on the show. I seen him at a wedding. I was like, oh. I told my wife, I was like, let me go catch him right quick. Let me go catch Ibrahim, get him on the show because he has so much to say, so much to give out there, so much knowledge to give, that is. So first of all, Ibrahim, I mean, I know we know you, but you want to introduce yourself to the audience and then kind of just go into basically, you know, what it is you do and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to thank you and the entire team at OZ Media. Obviously, Shema and Abid, you guys have been incredible co-hosts. I've watched a couple episodes of this show, and I can tell you that I'm deeply inspired by your ability to follow your dream. I mean, I know that when we went to Michigan State,
Go green, baby.
Go white.
Let's go.
You were a journalism guy. And
I put hashtag Spartans on.
I didn't know he was a state guy.
Oh, absolutely.
We're in school together.
Gosh.
Yes.
So,
wow.
You know, to sort of see what you are building is quite remarkable. And I was just telling you earlier that Omar and I played football together. And if you watch this weekend, you know, we had an insane playoff weekend for the NFL. Probably some of the best games
ever.
I don't think the Super Bowl will be able to live up to how great these games were. So this might have been the best of the football we've seen really in the last few years. But I was just telling him how when I was in high school and he was a quarterback, I was a center, and we were playing Harper Woods, and there was a scary guy in front of me. He's probably twice my size, and I was so nervous about getting trampled that I snapped the ball over Omar's head, and he ended up getting sacked, unfortunately, over a fumble. So I'm sorry for any pain or injuries I caused that time. But, my life story is very similar to so many of you guys. I have the honor of representing Hamtramck in Detroit in the Michigan legislature. I've been serving for almost a year and a half now. I came in unusual circumstances. Our state rep died from COVID-19, which led to a vacancy. And I'm completely honest with you, I was actually in the process of moving to New York City. As much as I loved Michigan and Hamtramck, I recognized that I had this opportunity to unionize bodega workers in New York. So the week of COVID, I think it was March 14th, March 15th, I was actually in New York City, and I saw overnight the city shuts down. And I thought to myself, all right, I got a apartment half the size of this room, and I was going to be stuck there in quarantine with very few amenities, or I can go back home and be with my family until we see what's to come. So I flew back to Michigan. I actually had to find like a weird flight out of New Jersey that was supposed to land in North Carolina, but I had to stop in Detroit because there were no flights to Detroit. Quarantined for several weeks, found out I had COVID. Alhamdulillah, I did not have any serious symptoms, but during my quarantine, I got a call that our state representative, Isaac Robinson, passed away from COVID. And the thing is, full circle, Isaac was the first person I met what is now 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, in politics. And he was the person that showed me the ropes. When I joined the Barack Obama campaign, he introduced himself as the Jewish Irish Catholic brother from the hood.
Okay.
And he said Abraham and Isaac were the biblical brothers. But I told him, wasn't Abe the father of Ishaq? And he said, don't worry about the details.
You know him, by the way. Do you remember he was the host of that award ceremony? That
I do remember.
Yeah. I mean, everybody knew Isaac.
Yeah. So you would say he was your mentor in a way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he showed me. He introduced me to John Conyers, right? Tried to get me a congressional page, and we worked on U.S. Ecology, which is the center just a stone's throw away from the Miller Mosque, Mu'adh bin Jabal, that was seeking to expand 10 times the amount of pollution in our community. And they're like, this is not okay. So anyway, fast forward, it was 10 years ago this year, it was actually 10 years ago last week, where I went to Mayor Majewski and she appointed me to the Recycling Commission. Because I don't know about you guys, but I grew up not drinking tap water. There was something about Sam's Club and Ice Mountain that my dad would always bring back gallons and gallons of water, and we just drink it. But every night, we'd throw away bags of plastic, and I tell my pops, what are we doing, And then I realized you can recycle them, and I got even angrier. So I joined the Recycling Commission to try to find a way, can we reduce waste in Hamtramck? And we still see it as an issue, right? A lot of folks are throwing away way more than they should. So took Go Green, literally, went to Michigan State. I was pre-med. I was an engineering student, dropped engineering. I stuck with pre-med, studied political theory. I worked for our state representative at the time, Isaac's mom, Rosemary Robinson. And I was ready to go to med school, and then obviously to bring it to one of the conversations today, after Trump's election, my uncle passed away from an airstrike just a few days before the travel ban was signed. And I recognized in that moment that if I'm not the one who's willing to step up and represent the voice of my community, then we would have a vacuum for a while. And it's not to say that I was the only person. Obviously, we're blessed to have so many people. But, when you have a story that you can share, it really can translate to incredible policy making. It can translate to incredible political power building. And I use that moment to say, I'm going to be the person that wants to step up and serve. And it came in different ways, and obviously right now we see the crisis in Yemen, which is really just a travesty. And we are seeing the really complete detachment that the people of Yemen have directly from the decision-making around the conflict. They have nothing to do with what the Houthis, who are in power in Yemen or have some political power, and they have nothing to do with what the Saudi coalition that is bombarding Yemen as we speak. These folks have no engagement in this process, yet they are the ones facing the brunt of this violence every single day. Kids were killed by the Saudi airstrikes playing soccer. You know, you think about, just like, imagine the same kids you see at Keyword, or the same kids you see in the South End playing soccer, just you know, bombed to death, doing the thing that so many in our community love. And these are the stories that if we are not in the room, if we are not in places of power, these situations get overlooked.
Great points and a great introduction and letting people know who you are. And we're going to get into a lot of different conversations today. And I kind of, you're mentioning Yemen, and I kind of want to get into that first, right? So we had this topic of leadership and talking about concerns in the courtroom, you know, with the recent news that happened in hamtramck. And then, you know, this Yemen airstrikes came out of nowhere. I mean, obviously Yemen's been going through stuff every day.
Yeah. I mean, but this was, to your point, this was an egregious escalation. I mean, you're talking about overnight, things went from bad to incredibly worse.
Yeah. And so, you know, the protests came out, and then I talked to Abe. I was like, hey, you know, do you want to talk about this? Because that's actually the first thing I was going to mention. So I'm like, okay, I'm glad we're on the same page.
And to touch on that, I mean, obviously on Table Talk, we talk about prevalent, relatable topics that are going on in the community and the world, right? And I noticed that today's topic was about leadership. But if you notice, nobody responded back saying, hey, are we going to talk about Yemen? Because right when I knew Ibrahim was our guest, we were going to talk about it. Yeah. Like, I already knew it was going to be something to be discussed. It was already, you know, a theory that was developing in my head, and I'm absolutely, like, you just confirmed it right now.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that, you know, this is definitely a safe space that we can definitely talk about stuff. And then the fact that we bring a guest that has the articulation to, like, speak about it and actually get the message across is really important. So I hope this one's an informative one.
And I just want to mention this too. I think it's very important that we're young and talking about this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the older generation probably thinks that we don't care about Yemen.
The only ones, Ahmad, if you genuinely think about it, in the Hamtramck, Dearborn, Detroit metro area, think about another group of Arabs that are talking about pressing conversations that need to be heard. It's us. You know what I mean? We're doing that. So for me, this is just a point of, like, reference. So, like, we may not be the ones that are streaming, you know, 100 million views or this and that. But we talk about topics that you can go back and reflect on. Like, we did talk about the situations that have been going around in our area. We have been talking about, you know, situations that need to be talked about. And I think, again, the fact that we are making ourselves that reference point is something that, you know, we should give ourselves a clap on the back.
Yeah, we can give ourselves a round of applause too. But going off of that is just want to also mention that, you know, we're in no way, shape, or form, at least us, right? We're not professionals on these topics. That's why we try to bring people who are going to help us and educate us the best way possible. And, you know, hopefully bridge the gap from the older generation to the ones that are, like, teenagers who are reading this stuff and not really understanding what is going on. And even the older ones might not really understand what's going on too, by the way.
A lot of the older generation that are here think that we can't really do anything but send money, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where they're at. That's where their mindset is at. And then the younger ones...
You know, but there are 1 or 2 or 3 individuals that are looking for the Yemen history, that are looking to be, you know, a voice to be reckoned with. They're you know, the 1, 2, 3 you know, that are there. And it's important for those people to know that there's people that support you, that we recognize that, you know, if nobody's reaching out trying to build that gap. Like, my dad is a perfect example of, he knows everything political that's happening in Yemen. And when I go up to him, he laughs in my face telling me, you don't know anything. And I'm like, hold on a minute, I do know something. Yeah. And the fact that I can defend what I know, he's like, oh, okay, let's talk. So now I'm sitting at the big boys table and I'm eating with the adults. So it's important for you to like actually, and that's why I'm so proud that we do stuff like this. Like, I got to talk to my dad about Bosnia. After the show, I went back and I was like, so do you know what's happening in Bosnia? He was like, what's happening? I was like, do I got a story for you? You know? So, like, it works. Like, if you're one of those people that are, you know, you're just, like, a nerd for knowledge, or you're just, like, you're looking for it, again, this is a good place to be.
And just want to throw it out there, they did an amazing job. Mr. Sarkis and Dennis, they did an amazing job, because they kept it real, too. Like, when we mentioned, like, how about Bosnia? They're like, oh, no, we're you know, corrupt, too. So, like, the political people, that is. So, like, they kept it real. But let's talk about Yemen, all right, Ibrahim? First of all, maybe just a quick recap of kind of what happened. And then I know you kind of touched on it. But also talk about maybe the protests and what can people do to help.
Yeah, so look, this is an incredibly the intricacies of the actual conflict are very complicated. And by no means am I an expert on the crisis in Yemen or Yemeni politics. I just happen to be a Yemeni American politician in the United States. But what we saw over the last few days, the quick timeline is there was a Houthi airstrike to the UAE. I believe a couple people were murdered, and like I said, condemn that violence absolutely. In response, the Saudi-led coalition. So I think what folks got to understand is you have the Saudi-led coalition, which consists of the Saudi Arabia, Sudan, the UAE, so on and so forth, right? A lot of the Arab Council. And the two principal players here are Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Now, they have a vested interest in Yemen because of the geography, right? I'm sure many folks have heard that Socotra, the island, for example, the UAE is trying to claim sovereignty over that island. Everybody sees those cool trees. I'm sure we've seen Instagram videos. Some person traveled there and showed, oh, look at all the fish and all, everyone wants to go there. It looks like an Avatar type of island. So, there's an interest there. Obviously, Yemen is a very significant port within the Middle East, and it plays a very strategic play for any navies, for any trade and things of that sort. So Yemen is not just this country that is impoverished. It does happen to be the only country in the Arabian Peninsula that doesn't have free access to travel to and from. So if you're part of the GCC, for example, if I'm a Bahraini citizen and I have a passport from Bahrain or from the UAE or from Kuwait, I can freely travel across all these countries, Oman, so on and so forth. Yemen is the only country that is blocked from that access. And, there are a lot of conversations as to why we can get there. But to further amplify, the Houthi rebels, and I'm trying to summarize this in as quickly as possible, came to power, and albeit they were oppressed by the last government, when they took over power after the Arab Springs we saw in 2011, it has been a slow and creeping takeover of the communities across Yemen. And now you're in a situation where a lot of the Houthis, by force, by violence, by any means necessary, took over major parts of Yemen, thus weakening the legitimate government, which is backed by Saudi Arabia. So now you're in a situation where there are estimates between 60 and 70% of the population of Yemen is under Houthi rule, which means that there are checkpoints, things of that nature. No matter where you go, you don't want to cross the Houthis. So they have sort of formed themselves to be a legitimate power player within the country of Yemen. Now, what's the caveat? Well, they're backed by Iran or Iran, right? Which means that a lot of their weapons, a lot of their situations, a lot of their weapons and resources comes from support from Iran, which leads to the complication at Hodeidah. So as you know, Hodeidah was just bombed by Saudi Arabia, as well as Sa'da, which is the northern part of Yemen along the border. So in that part of Yemen, there is a prison. And the Houthis imprisoned what we believe to be are largely African or Ethiopian migrants who were fleeing Saudi Arabia to come to Yemen for opportunity. It's crazy to imagine that folks are leaving Saudi to come to Yemen because they're afraid of mistreatment. So just to put that for context, not the other way around. So anyway, Houthis imprison these people. Saudi Arabia bombs that particular prison, killing and injuring hundreds of people. Egregious. On top of that, in Hodeidah, now Hodeidah is a very significant port that currently has a blockade. Blockade means you can't take anything in, can't take anything out. So a lot of human rights groups are saying, well, we need to open up the port to allow resources in, but the Houthis have control over that area. So what's the political problem there? Well, if you let shipments come into Hodeidah and people are bringing in food and medicine and things of that nature, the Saudi coalition claims they're also going to smuggle in Iranian weapons to then bomb Saudi Arabia, right? So in between medical shipments and food shipments, you're finding rockets and things of that nature. And this is all speculation, right? So there's a blockade right now. Now, here's the frustrating part as an American. The bombing that happened in Hodeidah where children were killed, and the bombing that happened in the prison where innocent, these prisoners had no reason to be murdered by the Saudi regime. Right? They are locked up by the quote-unquote adversary of the Saudi-led coalition. So you have a situation where, in this case, innocent bystanders were murdered at the expense of war. And then we also saw one of the major internet sites bombed as well, thus creating what is now a 4-day blackout. I believe most of Yemen is now back online, but a lot of folks didn't have access to internet, so they couldn't WhatsApp, they couldn't send money. I mean, for people who needed help. So I mean, imagine. I have a friend right now who's in Yemen. He's one of the community members in our district. I talked to him. We're actually working on a project in Detroit. So we had a Zoom call with the city of Detroit last week. So we were in touch with each other. He's telling me, all right, obviously I might have internet issues, but please make sure that you're on the call, so on and so forth. Couldn't reach him for the last 2 days. So I don't know if the city of Detroit wants to reschedule the meeting, things of that nature. And this is just a minor thing, but imagine if there are people that are concerned about whether or not their family is still alive, right? So these are some of the serious concerns. Now, here's what makes me angry as an American. Secretary Blinken condemned the rocket attack to the UAE, right? And said the Houthi rebels, we stand with the Saudi-led coalition. This was an inappropriate escalation that resulted in innocent people being murdered, but said nothing about U.S.-funded or U.S.-manufactured weapons that are killing innocent Yemeni civilians in this proxy war. Said nothing about the fact that literal children playing soccer were killed. Said nothing about the fact that prisoners have rights. Right? You can't just kill somebody. If somebody's in jail because they committed a crime, it doesn't give you a right to go kill them because, well, they're already criminals, right? And like I said, we don't know why they've been jailed, obviously, but to see them get murdered and sort of fall into the crosshair, and the United States says nothing, absolutely nothing. And we had a promise from President Biden that they would work to end the war in Yemen and, more importantly, end the supply of weapons, right? So the United States is selling hundreds of millions of dollars of weapons to Saudi Arabia to then bomb people that are related to Americans who live in the United States. And even if they weren't related, it is just preposterous to think that in 2022, with all of the diplomacy and all of the conversations people can have to find solutions, we are still feeding into the military-industrial complex, selling weapons to a regime that is anti-democratic. Right. If America is the shining city on the hill that represents democracy and freedom and liberty and so on and so forth, which we all love and we're proud of, to see the United States government then sell weapons to a regime, to Mohammed bin Salman and Zayed, that then bombard innocent people in Yemen is just disgusting. That, coupled with the years and years and decades and decades and decades of economic drought, of boxing out Yemen from opportunity to travel and things of that nature, all of this is culminating. So this was a long-winded answer, but I want to remember the second part of your question, which is what can we do about it? Yeah. So I know folks get desensitized. Every single week you see an issue, whether it's some innocent black person in America or anybody murdered at the hands of state-sanctioned violence, whether it's a situation where we see the innocent people of Gaza and Palestine getting harassed and murdered and having their land taken away for settlements, whether it's the crisis in Syria, they're going through an extremely difficult winter, so on and so forth, especially with the advent of the internet and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook. We can literally see in a matter of minutes all the problems in the world, the Uyghurs, this, that, and the other, the crisis on our border, the way people are treated, on the Mexican-American border. So people get desensitized. It's just another problem. What the heck is a protest gonna do? And here's the thing. If you are not advancing the issue, the vast majority of people have no idea what's going on in Yemen or don't even understand the politics around the situation. I'll tell you a personal story. We had a meeting with a member of Congress. A bunch of Yemenis got together, so they invited me to come. And everybody was speaking, and the story was inconsistent, right?
You had people who supported this part of the, on this side of the issue or that side of the issue. So you're having a meeting with a member of Congress who doesn't really understand the issue in its entirety, and then you have people come and give 16 different versions of the story. Now the person's like, all right, I don't know who to believe, right? What's true, what's not, so on and so forth. So, what you're seeing right now, for example, we have the Washington Center for Yemen Studies. This was built by folks in the United States, and with one objective. They're trying to build a research think tank that will provide the facts without any bias, or whether you're pro-Houthi, anti-Houthi, with the coalition, with not, just to provide the facts. And I encourage people to look them up. Again, it's Washington Center for Yemen Studies, that looks into the conflict and gives people the tools and the skill set to lobby their individual politicians to say, this is a crisis for us. We need you to work on stopping the sales to Saudi, right? But this is the challenge that you're dealing with. You also have lobbyists that are spending millions and millions of dollars a year to guarantee that these contracts are secured for these military manufacturers, because it's in their economic interest to keep selling weapons, right? So a U.S. manufactured rocket not being sold is profit loss. So this is the type of lobbying that we're dealing with. So the protest on Friday is one demonstration for people that are desperate in Yemen. One, they see that there are groups of people around the world standing with them. Just like when you look at the Palestinian crisis over this past summer. Obviously, marching in the streets wasn't going to change the issue, but it elevated the conversation. It required and made a space for politicians to take a stance, right? You have tens of thousands of people speaking out, hopefully hundreds of thousands of people speaking out. You got to answer, because these people vote, right? These people will knock doors. These people, if they're willing to come out on a Friday in the cold, they're probably going to be willing to do a hell of a lot more if it means fighting for human rights. And this is the ultimate point here, is the unfortunate reality is so many innocent women and children and young men in Yemen are suffering at the hands of this. And, nobody wakes up and says, I wish famine, fear, and fighting on my life. But this is the crisis people are dealing with. And we all have family in Yemen, right? I'm sure when most of us talk to them, by and large, they are okay, right? But the reality is, all it takes is one crisis like this, and then everything is done for these folks, because they are literally living day by day. Their access to water is day by day. Their access to heat is day. It's not like, all right, we got enough water for the week, we're good. I mean, these people are, like most Americans live paycheck to paycheck. These people are living, sunrise to sunset.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I rambled for a long time.
No,
I'm like looking
fine.
at the clock. It's probably over 15 minutes of chatting.
Let me ask you this question. So when is this protest, and where is it going to be held at? Where is it going to start?
I believe it's, Shema, this is your territory. It's in Dearborn, right? It's Friday.
It's going to be Friday at 3 p.m. at the Henry Ford Centennial Library.
Which is right off
of Michigan Avenue, next to the police station, the Civic Center, that area where all of the protests usually happen. So, again, it's at 3 p.m. I know it's a Friday. But yeah, be there or be square.
Any comments from you, Abin and Shema, about everything, or just?
I mean, it's a lot to swallow. Obviously, it's a long road ahead. It's not something that we can fix overnight, So,
yeah.
And from listening to what you said, basically, it's who can we communicate with to push it? So you were saying, I know are we thinking about the senators? Do we send letters to the senators? Do we?
Yeah.
Like, what can we do else other than?
So I come and look at this from as an elected official. The power of votes. Our last state senate, our U.S. Senator Gary Peters won his election by, I think, 15 or 20,000 votes. I know 15 or 20,000 Yemeni Americans that are registered to vote, and it's not just Yemeni Americans that care about this issue, right? But there is power in number, right? If those 20, 30,000 people say we're going to sit out next election, that can be the difference maker. There's an open congressional seat right now in Hamtramck, in Detroit, and downriver, all the way down to Melvindale. That means a new voice will go to Congress, and we got to make sure, is this person going to take seriously the issue of Yemen? Are they going to recognize the responsibility the United States has to not perpetuate this, state-sanctioned violence, right? Are we going to continue to allow arms sales? Like, these are the conversations that we have. Obviously, you have folks like Debbie Dingle and Rashida Tlaib, two friends of mine that I can call and talk about the issue. But, there's only so much that I can do in as an individual, and there's more power when a collective says that this is a problem.
Right.
And look, Michigan is lucky. We have, Gary Peters is the chairman of Homeland Security, right? Debbie Stabenow, our other U.S. senator, she's the fourth or fifth most powerful senator in the Democratic caucus. Debbie Dingle has deep connections. I always tell her, you're the only person that I know that can call the Republicans, the Democrats, and Joe Biden, and they will answer the phone, right? So this woman yields a lot of power because of the years that she's been in Washington, leveraging that and saying, we need your leadership on this issue, because they are responsible to us, and this goes to the accountability, right? Leadership is, if my community asks me to speak up on an issue, even if it's not my particular issue, I'm going to step up, because my job is to respond and represent people, to your point, which is why I took such a strong position on this Judge Crott issue and the problem that we had in the 31st District Court. People were calling me, and I could hear the pain in their voices about their experiences. It's not my job to say, oh yeah, thanks for saying this, we're just going to dismiss it. Even if I disagree with a particular issue. Part of having, leadership is recognizing where you have to assume responsibility for issues that impact your community, because you don't know all the things all the time. I certainly don't. So that's why it's incredibly important to put pressure on people to speak up and say something.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if you have people saying, okay, so if America doesn't give them any warfare, who's to say that they won't get it from somebody else, and it still continues?
Yeah, well, we have, this is a good point. Our military might is more powerful than I believe the next 4, 5, 6 countries combined. Right, so you got America and you got everybody else. That's really what the situation is. So, look, the modern economic system in the United States was built in response to our ability to manufacture and develop weapons is how we won World War II, which is good because we defeated Nazi Germany, right? But this has led to a system. The top lobbyists in Washington D.C. after pharmaceuticals in the healthcare industry, obviously, are defense contractors. People say the biggest winner in the Afghan war wasn't the U.S., wasn't the Taliban, wasn't Afghanistan. It was Lockheed Martin and Boeing and all of these companies that make weapons. Because from 2001 to 2020, for 20 years, these folks were able to take trillions of dollars in taxpayer money and were able to pay for weapons and things of that nature for a war that led to nothing except destruction and peril for the Afghan people.
If you were to ask me, though, the same question, I think the Middle East literally is America's backyard. It's like their playing ground. And honestly, I think all of the other powerhouse countries, Russia, China, they're dealing with the situation what's their playground. So, for example, Russia is more interested in Ukraine and all of the countries that are surrounding it. China got its own worries right now. So until something triggers Russia or China's interest, I don't think anybody's it's gonna be a standstill trying to see what's like the next involvement. Right now, America has a heavy role in the stuff that's happening in the Middle East because it's been their playground for centuries. You know what I mean? So I just think all the other powerful countries are looking at America like, it's your baby. Like, this is your backyard. Like, we're not getting involved. We're trying to take over Ukraine. We're trying to take over our backyards. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for me, I look at Russia, I look at China, I'm like, they're not getting involved yet because there's nothing for them. There's stuff for them to get. Everybody wants Yemen, right? Everybody wants the geo of it. But at the same time, I don't think it's still America's,
I forgot it.
You forgot it?
I'll remember it in a while.
Okay. Well, moving on from one concern that's out the country that kind of relates to what's going on here in the States, to one that is more hitting home that we are in America. And you mentioned Judge Alexis Kra, and I don't want to kind of get into what was said, I guess, because, you know, she apologized for it, right? And we are not the ones to judge, literally, right? So at the end of the day, what I do want to ask is, what are your overall thoughts with the current and concerns about how residents are being treated in court? Because I know you mentioned, like, this is, like, not the, like, people were complaining, and it's not just her, by the way, right? This happens
Sure.
often.
So you know, let me give you some context. You know, when I first got the video sent to me, you know, it was an Instagram DM, and it was a request. You had to look it up, and then I saw it. And I was like, okay, and I watched it, and I didn't realize it was hamtramck at the time. But then, as soon as I figured out who the person was, you know, he literally lives 10 houses or 12 houses away from me, right?
Oh, wow.
So, in seeing that story, a lot of people called, you know, people with Bosnian background, Bangladeshi background, Arab background, so on and so forth. And they're all saying that we are sick and tired of this treatment. And then it reminded me of my personal experience. You know, we grew up taking our parents to City Hall, to the court, to the police station.
Speaking for them sometimes.
Yeah. And I remember the lack of dignity and just basic decency that our parents would get, and the nerves that you have walking into these, you know, places of authority, because we knew that if someone's initial reaction is, I don't feel welcome here, right, this is a problem, right? So moving that experience, you know, this is something that is not just, you know, something that I went through, or, you know, wherever you go, anyone who's an immigrant, who has a disability, who speaks English as a second language, who's black, who's brown, they face the brunt of these issues all the time. And more so in our judicial system than anywhere else. I was just talking to my friends about, you know, I recommend that they watch the movie series When They See Us, regarding the folks, the 5 young black boys who were treated as animals during the Central Park 5 issue. Or there was another documentary with, I think, Bobby Love and the Black Panthers, regarding how folks were treated in Chicago during the riots, and how these people were sort of mistreated simply because of who they were. So there is a history of mistreatment and abuse of authority. So bringing it back to hamtramck. Look, anybody who's elected, I'm elected, my sister's an elected official, you know, the mayor, the council, the judge, you take an oath and you have a responsibility to serve. But you also have a responsibility to keep the promises you made on a campaign trail. Now here's the thing, if someone was elected judge and said, I'm going to be disrespectful, I'm going to be degrading, I'm going to be this, that, and the other, one, they probably would have won the election, but let's just say that's what they campaigned on, and they won. Well, they told you what you're going to get, and that's what you got. In this situation, you had somebody who leveraged the black and brown vote. Right? Hamtramck is a largely community of color, largely a community of immigrants. When you lean on these people and say, I need your support, I need you guys to deliver this election result for me, and then you go around and you mistreat somebody, and here, that is inexcusable, especially when you are the person in authority. Now, everybody can have a bad day. I'm not saying that's not the case, right? If I have a frustrating day, that's fine. Everybody is entitled to cope with their emotions or their frustrations. But what I don't have a right to do, what anybody doesn't have a right to do, is use my position, abuse my authority to mistreat somebody because I disagree with them. And regarding Mr. Chaudhry's case, look, I'm not debating at all whether or not he should have gotten the ticket, whether he should have paid the ticket. That's not my job. I'm not a judge. But what I can say is, as a resident of this community, as someone who represents this community in state government, I expect every single person to be treated with dignity and respect. And when someone walks in for something as simple of, they just had overgrown shrubs in their alley, to threaten them with jail time, especially after they tell you, I have cancer, you can see they're, heaving, struggling to breathe, they're older, that's inexcusable. Then I would hold anybody accountable and put anybody under pressure for acting the way they did. And in this case, it was someone in a position of authority that can, like, as a state rep, I can't go up to your and say, okay, I'm mad at you. All right, you're gonna have to pay more taxes, right? I don't have that authority. But a judge can levy judgments on you, right? They can issue rulings that can impact your life. Whether you go to jail, whether you pay something, whether you go on probation, so on and so forth. So that comes with a sense of responsibility. And on top of that, we are still dealing with the pandemic. I just had COVID, right? Three weeks ago, and I promise I've tested negative multiple times. But, we are still dealing with a pandemic that doesn't have an end in sight. We're still dealing with an economic crisis. I was at Kroger the other day, and yesterday somebody was complaining about how expensive milk is, right? And Hamtramck is a largely working poor community. So all of these things put together, you expect people that are making six-figure salaries off the backs of taxpayers to be responsible and dignify people. All we're asking is for dignity. We're not asking for dismissed tickets. We're not asking for, wasatas and say, or hook it up, or, let this go. We're not asking for any of that. All we're asking for is if I come in for a speeding ticket, or if I come in for holding a red sign, or I didn't shovel my snow on time, or I got a blight ticket, a civil infraction, just treat me with respect. And most people are not familiar with the court. I'm not familiar with the court
That's
system.
what I was going to say. I was going to say a lot of the community in Hamtramck don't even understand, what's going on.
Most people don't, right? Like, I walk into a courtroom, I'm fumbling. Like,
honestly,
do I sit? Do I stand? What am I allowed to wear? Like, I have these black,
What do you tell? Your Honor? Do you say every single time you say
right,
something?
Right. Do you say sir, ma'am? So it's so this is for somebody who grew up in this country and speaks English, so on and so forth. Let alone somebody who's an immigrant, who's sick, who's this, who's that. And I was talking to Shabir. We met on Saturday, Mr. Burhan Chowdhury's son, and he hugged me and teared up and said, I just appreciate this community's willingness to stand up for me. And what's worse about this is the city was put on an international map, right? You saw BBC, CNN. I got calls from journalists from across the world, Daily Mail, things of that nature. It's just embarrassing, All right, we want Hamtramck to be in the news for something good. Right, that we're going to finally change the lead pipes in the streets. We're going to, Hamtramck Stadium, one of 6 Negro League stadiums that are still in existence with their original structure. These are the things we want people to be. Punchki Day, our restaurants, our murals, the diversity. I don't want to wake up and Google Hamtramck and see Hamtramck judge berates, attacks, or threatens elderly cancer patient with jail time over that is shameful, and it's inappropriate, and it's a reminder that we still have a long way to go of ensuring that our communities are treated with dignity and respect. And regarding the apology, I'm glad that she finally apologized. I'm glad but disappointed that it took over 2 weeks almost. Hundreds of thousands of people signing a petition across the United States, and international headlines for her to finally say, I made a mistake. And in speaking to the son, the fact that his father wasn't even acknowledged in the apology bothered him. So, I'm going to do my due diligence. I looked at it and I said, all right, when I'm in trouble, or when a city school board member or city council member does something wrong, you can recall it. Get petitions, get a bunch of signatures. If enough people want to boot me out, they can boot me out, right? Good for them, for being effective organizers. With elected judges, you can't do that, right? So we thought, all right, what are ways we can hold our judges accountable? So we looked at the Judicial Tenure Commission. I've been in touch with the State Court Administrative Office, which oversees all of the district judges across the United States, across Michigan rather. Spoken to folks from the Justice Department in Michigan, the legislative liaisons, to say, right, what are ways we can ensure that they're being held accountable? So we're working on legislation, laws that can continue to allow us to hold judges accountable and keep a watchful eye on their actions, to elevate the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion training, to make sure that you're respecting people with disabilities, immigrants, English second language, so on and so forth. And finally, I'm filing a complaint with the Judicial Tenure Commission. And the other point is saying it's a pattern of behavior. I've gotten plenty of complaints about this court, about this particular judge. People call and say, hey, Abe, I was mistreated, I was disrespected, they wouldn't let me explain myself, so on and so forth. And, obviously none of them have filed complaints, and we encourage people to do that if they feel like they have been mistreated, or if they feel like the bench acted out of turn. So that's one thing. But to that point, I've heard it, I'm sure you've had conversations with people, there has been a pattern of folks complaining about the mistreatment that comes out of that courtroom. We're just sick of it.
Thank you very much. Shayman, I don't know if you want to add on something.
There's something that, again, I hold myself accountable, obviously, but you guys know I have a disability, right? I have actually 2 of them. And I'm, legally considered disabled. So, I have a plate with my tag on it.
You're a protected class.
So, I'm protected, right? And what drove me insane? You guys know I love the city of Hamtramck. I'm here all the time. Well, I think your house is Hamtramck.
Yeah.
But I'm in Hamtramck most of my time in the week. And I remember I was in a relapse. So, and I really don't use my handicap sticker because I'm in Jordans most of the time. So it's funny parking in the hit. So I usually don't use my handicap unless I'm in a serious relapse. And I was eating at a restaurant in Hamtramck. And didn't even know about these stupid poles that they put on these parking meters. And I got a $50 ticket, $45 ticket in my mail. Mind you, I'm a protected citizen. I don't even have to pay for meters ever. I'm disabled. You know what I mean? So I got a $45 ticket. And I was just like, the mayor, the judges in Hamtramck are known, the politicians or the police or all of the governmental people in Hamtramck, they have a look, a stereotype, I want to say, or whatever. So I told myself, just pay the $45. And I was pissed because it was so uncalled for. And I was like, as somebody that is coming to visit the city, that advocates for people to come to the city, I was held back. And I was just like, oh, okay. So it was
Yeah,
it sucked.
those parking meters are quite the controversy.
Yeah.
My God.
You gotta have your own tabletop show just for the parking meters.
My
All
God.
the entertainment.
And what the funny thing is? They didn't even tell me that I got a letter in the mail. I got a ticket in the mail.
So for anybody watching, a PSA about this. If you forgot to pay for parking, right, after 15 minutes, you automatically you're gonna get a ticket in the mail. But let's say you go in for an hour and you forget to pay for parking. You can go back and back pay. So you just go back, let's say you park for 2 hours, you can go back to the meter, pay for 2 hours in that same spot, and it's gonna pretty much wipe or erase the ticket and consider you having paid. So
that's a very important thing.
Yeah,
nobody mentioned that.
How does that even happen?
I guess there's sort of a retroactivity. I don't know how it works, but I believe it's pretty much So if you go in
these mother lovers.
How come nobody mentioned this?
I think the problem is, and this is why it's so important to elect, people that are engaged on city council. And everybody says, "Oh, city council." We always measure the importance of a job based on how much it's paid for, how much you get paid for. And yeah, the mayor's a part-time job, the council's a part-time job, but those are incredibly important positions, right? The previous council voted for these parking meters. They got the contract presented to them.
Well,
they were told this is what it would
listened.
come from, so on and so forth. And whether or not they listened, or whether or not they actually did their due diligence to actually say, does this make sense? I don't know. I wasn't in the room, right? But to that point, this is why we need people that know what the heck's going on. Because now folks are angry. Contractually, you can't reduce the ticket beyond under $25. That's one issue. You can't just get rid of them, right? We signed a contract with this company. The other thing that's scary, and a news article will be coming out soon about this, there are over 600 cameras on Joseph Campo, not to take a picture of the license plate. I'm not talking about those license. So each pole has a camera for a license plate.
Yeah.
There are over 600 cameras facing the sidewalks, right?
Yeah.
And at any point,
You can get people.
the FBI, the police department, any entity in the interest of public safety can get access, if council approves it, for some of this footage. And I think it's huge concern. There has to be a serious look into that, because people's liberties should not be violated. I mean,
Right.
we saw what happened after 9/11 with all the mosques. We saw what happened with CVE. We don't need another sort of system. I understand we want our communities to be safe, but people should have a right to know whether or not they're being recorded.
I didn't know there was cameras like that.
I learned about this from a reporter who called me, by the way. But the camera in front of us right here has a red dot. That tells me it's live, it's recording.
Yeah.
But to have over 600 cameras up at Campo, I don't know whether or not they're recording, whether they're storing the footage, whether somebody sees me,
That's nuts.
and it's like it could be used to track somebody, right? What stores are they going to, so on and so forth. That's scary stuff. And we don't know if they can upgrade the cameras for facial recognition. I mean, there is a serious concern.
That's concerning as a business owner on Joseph Campo. Now I'm if that becomes public knowledge, which it's obviously going to be public knowledge, and let's say, what's on Joseph Campo that I can just think of? Coffee shop. Let's say I want to go drink coffee, right? And I know that street is being recorded. I'm not coming to drink coffee on that street. So that's very concerning for the economical contribution to the city. So I'm very curious to see how that plays out, because that's huge. And that's literally the idea of Big Brother always watching. And that scares me.
Yeah, no.
That scares me.
Seriously.
And it's funny, Dr. Ghalib, current mayor of the city of hamtramck, probably is watching and just texted me and said, tell Shayma sorry about the ticket. Friend of the podcast. Him and former Mayor Mieski came on the show. Appreciate you, Dr. Ghalib. And
Mr. Mayor, good to see you.
I don't know if I ever formally congratulated him after the victory, but congratulations. I think I sent him a text, but congratulations once again.
Congratulations.
He said this is something that was approved by the former government, as Ibrahim mentioned, and we are working to renegotiate the contract terms. We will try to increase the free grace period to 30 minutes. And we decreased the tickets to $25 for now, and hopefully more to be
my
done.
thing is go talk to the people that own these meters and tell them, hey, this plate is a disabled plate. They need to be able to recognize that little symbol that's on the plate. Because what's crazy to me is, okay, downtown is a big one. Downtown, you have to pay for parking over there. Ferndale, you have to pay for parking. Ann Arbor. Those are the big cities that I can think about that I'm also in a lot, okay? You guys, I park handicap, so I don't have, it's just, you handicap, you don't gotta pay for that. There's not even a meter at the handicap spots. So my thing is just those people, which is not the city's fault, it's the companies that need to have a better AI technology, whatever. They need to be able to recognize, and that's an easy problem to fix. You know what I mean?
Well, I think the other consideration, to your point, it's not just persons with disabilities. It's also, look, if my dad parked on Campo or my mom, I don't know if they know how to navigate the app as effective. I mean, I parked the other day. I had to go to the dentist on Joseph Campo, so I parked. It was MLK Day, so I still don't know if it's green or red, the parking. I can't believe we're talking about parking meters, but this is great. If it was green or red, I was like, all right, is green meaning I have to pay, red not? So then I'm struggling on the system, and then one of the store from the Shoes Club, I think is the name of the store, he comes and says, oh, you don't have to pay, it's MLK Day. I was like, oh, thank God. I'm glad I had an appointment on a Monday.
Right.
Because the next day I would have struggled and I wouldn't know how to. So, it's not to say, is it, you can figure it out? Sure you can. But I think it was such an abrupt shift.
Not the proper, in my opinion, not the proper, rollout. Nobody knows about it. Yeah. It just came out of nowhere, and now I got, boom, hit with it. And I'm somebody that comes to the city, and I know the tea. So it's I should have known about this, guys. Yeah. And now I'm at it. What are you doing on Joseph? Make sure you have a couple of change or your app, because
Yeah,
I be parking on the side streets now.
Yeah.
I don't want to take the chance. I don't know how to do it.
You
I park on the
remember
side streets.
Main Street's parking lot is horrible now because of the parking meters.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's crazy. So there's a couple things I want to say. First of all, Carmela chimes in and said, "Hello, beautiful people, and happy birthday." I did see that it was your birthday, by the way,
Today?
last week. No, it was a couple days ago.
Last
Well,
Thursday.
happy
Yeah,
belated.
happy
Thank you.
belated birthday. And then Uncle Nash said Sanam's good people, so people chiming in. Feel free if you guys want to discuss. And then someone said basically an eagle eye when you were talking about the camera situation.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what it is. And it's so funny because this is the story I was going to bring up. And, the mayor messaging me. So I'm going to give you guys a quick little sidetrack story. And then we're going to go more softer conversations.
Oh,
And I know we kinda-
is this a story you wouldn't share?
yeah, I didn't want to share with him. I was like, because I'm
I'm
live,
nervous.
because it was, it was before live. And I was like, man, let me save it till live, because maybe we can laugh about it. So, remember we had a little issue, or we had the issue, I don't call it little, but an issue with the Etsy Queen Healing Spa situation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So we had a nice discussion at the barbershop. And I remember, first of all, I was already on edge the whole day, because I was worried. Just anything can go wrong, right? But we were in a very heated discussion at that point. This is the mirror pulled up, and now it was getting serious, right? And we had a couple back and forths going on. And I'm sitting there like, I want the conversation to happen because this is why we're here, right? But I'm also like, how do I say, okay, let's stop? You know what I'm saying? Because these are respected officials. I'm just the guy with the phone and the camera, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sitting there, and then comes the barber. It's like, you got a phone call. In the middle of the conversation.
God.
He's like, you got a
Oh my
phone
God.
call.
For you?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
What the heck?
I'm pointing at the mayor, right? Like,
Yeah.
he's like, no, you.
Did I call you?
Listen, he's like, no, you. And I'm like, what? I'm like, hello?
funny.
Like, first of all, why are you calling me? Like, I'm like,
On the
"Fuck
phone
you,"
line.
you know what I'm saying? But I'm glad you did, because I was using my phone. And I don't know if you did call my phone or not. I don't know if I did.
Well, I texted you.
Okay,
I
yeah.
remember. I don't even know what it was about, but I texted you, and you weren't responding. Then I realized, okay, the phone's probably recorded.
Yes.
So I called the barbershop. Like, I know where he's at.
I'm so glad that he called the barbershop.
That's
So
crazy.
anyways,
That's
he
funny.
called.
So this is only in Hamtramck.
Yes. So I'm on the phone. They're over there going back and forth. I'm like, hello? And I couldn't hear him. He's like, hello? He's like, this is Brian. I'm like, Brian? He's like, yeah, Brian. Aiyash. So what's up, man? He's like, yeah, just like, try to like move on because, the kid go left. And I was like, yeah, for sure. And so,
I
help
remember
me
him
out.
telling me how nervous he was. Like,
Yeah, because like I didn't know where it was gonna go, and so it helped me out and it helped me navigate. It's just funny because it kind of reminded me of this situation right here. But funny moment, like right there, like that was
Yeah.
hilarious. And like, but Ibrahim, he makes that phone call, you gotta make it happen, right? He's that guy. You get that phone call, you have to shut things down, man. But I just wanted to share that funny story.
Well, yeah, that was an interesting time because I didn't know Essie Queen at the time, so I know her personally, but one of my colleagues, she's Stephanie Young, 50. She just turned 56, I think. So very different world, right? She's a strong, devout. She's a minister in her church, black woman from the west side of Detroit. I'm this son of immigrant from Hamtramck. But what we have built such an incredible friendship and bond as colleagues, and she called me and told me, hey, this is happening in Hamtramck, and I got her word of the story, and I called the owner of the spa, and we had conversations. This was one of those things where, and I hope this is a good transition into leadership. I'm trying to help direct that. But
you're doing a great job. You're 2 for 2 so far, about to be 3 for 3.
Thank you. But this was a moment where it was an uncomfortable conversation that needed to be had. We had members on the zoning board that were probably somewhat dismissive, and there was just a lot of misunderstanding. So I'm in this position where, all right, unfortunately, we don't have strong relationships as folks in the Arab and specifically with the Yemeni community, with a lot of the black community members in Detroit, where I'm sort of in both spaces. Right?
Yeah.
I'm deeply involved in Detroit in organizing. I'm deeply involved in Hamtramck organizing. So I used to call Karen Mayeski at the time, the mayor, figuring out what the heck we can do to solve this issue. I'm calling the folks on the zoning board. I'm calling folks from the Yemeni community, from the black leadership, to say, where can we try to solve this issue behind closed doors so we don't have to publicize it. And there are a lot of uncomfortable conversations. And then when that barbershop talk happened, it quickly became, folks were accusing the mayor of certain things at the time, which is inappropriate. Some members of council were there, I believe, and they weren't giving an accurate picture of the situation. And I wanted to make sure, look, my goal, first and foremost, is to make sure that this black woman who opened up a business in Hamtramck had access and opportunity to open up the business without any conflict. And if there's a misunderstanding with the process, we can solve the process. And then we can have a deeper conversation about how we can strengthen our race relations, strengthen our ability to work together to fight for issues. Because, going specifically to the recent issue we talked about with the judge, plenty of black folks have called me and complained about the way they were treated.
Right.
So this is not specifically a Bengali or a Yemeni or an Arab issue. This is an issue that impacts all people, and recognizing that shared struggle, and we all have a collective responsibility to sort of take each other's pain away.
Absolutely.
There's an Armenian expression. I think it's called it's spartans. I'm probably butchering the phrase, but it means to take your pain away. Let me take your pain away. And I thought it was a beautiful expression, and that's how I view leadership. Is if I have an opportunity to be able to be a voice for, or just a vehicle for many people in a community, I hope that I can take some people's pain away, right? And that's what we got to try to do for one another, especially now as times get tough and we are an increasingly disconnected society. I always see, I didn't realize local Facebook groups are so intense.
Yeah.
Oh,
The amount of fights that happen. I mean, I have no idea what goes on in the Dearborn ones, but I'm like, Hamtramck is 2 square miles.
Oh my God.
There's like a bajillion miles of conflict that you can find in some of these threads.
Even like the lives or the meetings, like the stuff that goes on during the meetings. So it's like, what the heck is going on?
I know.
It reminds me of Stars Hollow and Gilmore Girls, but whatever.
Reference that maybe half the world can get right now, because
basically it's a very small city and they have their city council meetings and there's always arguments over silly stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
So going off of that, you mentioned that what does it take to be a leader in the community, taking pain away, being a voice. We can all answer these questions now that we entered this part of it. So what else you can finish it off. What are some other main points, I guess, of being a leader in the community?
I it always makes me uncomfortable, when I hear that phrase, like, oh, you're a leader of the community. I'm someone who is a product of this community. I think first and foremost, I grew up in Hamtramck. I started organizing at the mosque, just getting coffee and dates ready. That was like my friend.
I can confirm this, by the way. I can confirm this. He used to always give us a couple extra. Me and my dad, he used to throw us a couple extra, so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
We'd have football practice. And then, I remember I give him rides home, right? Because we live right by each other.
Right.
And then, hey, we're going to see you in the masjid later on, right? Yep. And then throw me an extra couple dates. Appreciated that, by the way.
Yeah. So that
some
was
favoritism.
Only for you. But, that's the thing, right? Organizing takes, for me, it was literally, all right, we got to fix the system. Everybody needs coffee. Everybody needs dates to break their fast at the mosque. Let's get it done. So
in the most efficient way.
Yeah, in the most efficient way. So I literally started in the 3rd grade. And I did that from 3rd grade till I graduated high school every single Ramadan. And it was such a fruitful experience for me. But, that for me was the first part. The other thing, and I credit my experience growing up at the mosque. If you've been to the mosque, both the men and women, the old folks, when they talk, they're like reading Quran, and they start arguing about politics, or they try to tell you life advice. They say, yeah, Bani, do this or do that, and you sort of have to learn to take it, right, and listen, and have, I learned patience. I'm not even joking when I say this. My ability to sort of talk with Republicans and Democrats who I don't agree with, who give me these crazy ideas, I'm like, okay, having the conversations, when I talk to voters or talk to people in our neighborhoods, being able to just pause and listen to them, I believe is a skill set I learned going up and having that experience. So, that's one of the most important things, right? Are you able to listen? And you may not, I'll never know the experience that a black person in America has. Never. I have privileges that it's I will never have to worry about being seen as a danger simply because of
the color of my skin.
Yeah, because I'm walking at night. I'm a little, obviously, a lot lighter than someone who may be African American, and for them to have that experience, I don't know what that's like. but I recognize why it's so important to fight for their justice. And I think that is important, that you may not be able to feel exactly what everybody else is feeling, but just can you relate from your own shared struggle? And everybody has a story, right? You say, oh, my life's boring, I haven't done anything, or I haven't suffered from anything. But everybody has something that defines who they are. And, a lot of it is reflection on your own life. I try to journal. I know it's like a Gary Vee podcast. But I try to do some reflection on my own life consistently. But listening is the most important, I think, skill set. Because if you're not hearing people out, how the hell are you going to lead? Right?
Mm-hmm. Great point. Abir, what are your takeaways from being a leader, I guess?
So, I think I'm going to mess up this quote. But Isaac Newton said it. Basically, you can only lead by you stepping on giants. So basically, I think as a good leader, you first have to have a good mentor that can teach you the ropes.
Absolutely.
And then eventually, you owe it to yourself and that mentor to, pass the baton and lead it in that way. So whether it's leading a classroom, because I'm a teacher, so I'm gonna go into to that aspect or whatever. Whether it's leading a classroom, leading your family, doing your part. I think it's important. If you know something, if you know that you can help someone, why not?
Shayman, how about you? What do you think it takes to be a leader in the community?
Okay, so for me, I realize a true leader, and I don't want to say gets comfortable because it's hard, but a true leader knows when to be vulnerable and knows when to show relation and when to explain something that happened in their life to then show a more relatable interaction. Like, for example, I don't know certain struggles in life, okay? I mean, I'm not a divorcee, I don't have children, I've never been married, okay? That's a big one in my life because that's what people are, my circle is, right? But I've been through hell, okay? And when you're down, when you're in misery, what do they say? Misery loves company, right? So there's more relatability when we're miserable than when we're both feeling good, when we're both feeling all right. So because of that, when you can literally say, I'm going through something, and I want to, what are you going through? Or I'm going through something, maybe if I share it, you'll then feel more comfortable enough to share your experiences. Mm-hmm. I think that's so, so, so important in the role of leadership. Because if you can show people it's okay to fold backwards just as much as you'll fold forward, that will then show people they can then voice their own opinion and voice their own voice. So I'm big on, a lot of people give me this nickname. They call me the voice for the voiceless. And that's all I do, is I just talk about the things that I've been through in hopes that it will trigger something where they can feel comfortable, where they can find their own power and courage to then speak about their own ailments. Because that's so powerful. And a leader will know when to step back. A leader will know when it's time to lead or when it's time for you to talk about your own specific problem, and then let them do the juice, let them do the talking. And so for me, I think that all comes back with knowing how to be vulnerable and knowing how to be relatable. And when somebody has that, that's actually a true a leader that you want to be boys with. So for me, it's important.
That, to your point, I grew up thinking about, when you think about politicians, right, they have to be perfect. Mm-hmm. Make sure you don't even have a traffic ticket. That's
right.
Always they say, make sure that your record is clean. But then I saw a dramatic shift in what people expect from elected officials. That vulnerability is so important, right?
Yep.
To say hey, I'm going to say this, and I hope we don't get bleeped, but if you look at this figuratively and then literally, and everybody has crap, no one wants to smell the other person's, right?
Right.
And then it's both in a literal sense and in a figurative sense. And to that point, though, it's important to show people, look, I make mistakes too, right? I can be sloppy at times. I can be a little bit messy. I have this struggle that I'm going through, and people are more all right, this is somebody that I can trust because they're not this,
They're human.
Yeah, right. And,
Right.
and that's such an important asset, because part of that point, leadership, is that people can come to you and say, we want to help you or we want you to help us?
So like I'm in the business where I'm trying to show more of our imperfections and glorify the fact that we all have the specific imperfection than to show our perfection. So for example, we're Yemeni, we could talk about this. So usually we don't talk about, let's talk about school, because this is something that we can all relate to, okay? We don't talk about us applying for the financial aid and helping people like students apply for financial aid, or teaching them how to get loans and how to become a student, right? But what are we doing after? My son and daughter graduated. Graduation, it's this, right? Okay, speaking of loans. So for me, it's so important to then, like, if you are talking about the struggles of actually getting to school, the struggles of failing your pharmacology test, or the struggle of actually going to school, or having to argue with your parents for you to even go to school, rather than just being like, oh, I'm this Yemeni doctor, or oh, I just graduated engineering school, or like show people how you did it. The one thing that I get commended for on a day basis is my strength. But again, how do you guys know about it? How do you guys know what I went through? I shared it. And now you guys are holding me accountable to something that you guys can physically see with your own two eyes. Mm-hmm. So for me, I had a moment just a few days ago. I saw this. You guys, this was such a surreal moment. I'm kind of excited I get to share it. But I had 37 surgeries in 2019. 37 surgeries and procedures. I lost a total of 94 pounds. Okay? And the following year, I had 9. Right? The majority of those surgeries were from like the region of my esophagus to my stomach. Okay? And there's one surgeon that I saw him more than I saw any other human being ever for the last 2 years, okay? And, you know, when a surgeon leaves, or when your doctor leaves from the hospital that you get served at, you get this letter in the mail saying, oh, kid that left, they're going to be at this hospital, okay? So I got that letter from one of my surgeons, and I was like, oh, okay, Dr. Hamoud is leaving? Oh, okay. Fast forwarding 2022, last Friday, I'm doing my clinical rotations. We're getting debriefed. That's the end of my shift. And she's talking about da-da-da-da, and I was talking to her about a feeling. I felt belittled. I felt so belittled on my rotation. And all of a sudden, I see Dr. Hamoud walking past, like just casually walking to his car. And I'm like, oh my God. I was like, that's my surgeon. I didn't know what to do at that moment. I was just like, oh my God, what do I do? Can I say something? And I was like, you know what, screw these people. They don't know what I've been through. Dr. Hamoud! And I was like, Dr. Hamoud? And he looked down and he's like, yeah, I seen you upstairs. Jamie saw you too. Jamie was his PA that basically did all my paperwork. It's like, Jamie saw you too. She came up to you. You didn't recognize that hi? And I froze. I was like, oh my God. Like, this was a moment that I talk so much about. Like, I talked about the surgeries. I talked about the tuning. I talked about this. I talked about that. And now, full circle, I'm on this side of it now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's something that, like, a lot of people relate to. Like, a lot of people can relate to being in the struggle, struggling, and then now you can find a little bit of, like, oh, you know? So for me, the only way that I get, and then it feels good. Like, people telling me, oh, Shema, you're resilient. Oh, Shema, you're strong. It feels good. So not only is it working for people, it's also working for you, and a true leader can recognize that. A true leader knows that when you're helping other people, you're also helping yourself. So for me, I figured out my purpose a long time ago. Alhamdulillah, thank you, MS. But I figured out my purpose was to help people a long time ago. So for me, I was able to like just have a tunnel vision and just rock and roll.
That was great, very well put. So I guess, I know you kind of mentioned why it's important to be a leader a little bit, but do you want to touch on that a little bit more? I guess just making sure you were talking about how you can impact other people's lives.
I just think, just be true to your nature. Just be true to yourself, and know that if you're going through something, 10 people have it 10 times worse, but guess what? 10 people have it 10 times better. So you have the power right now to help all the people that have it 10 times worse, but then you have the power to share and to educate the people that have it 10 times better, people. That's even more important to me, to show and to tell people, the people that got it good, to show them, hey, look, I did it too. And I'm one of the people that you would consider less than you. So for me, it's looking at the people that have disabilities that are more prominent in their lives, or more, or like they're going through mental ailments that, like, literally it sucks when you get hit with something big. When it's huge what it does to your inner self. So dealing with those people, knowing that I know that there's 10 people worse than the situation that I am, and I can be the voice, that the inspiration that they need, but then I can educate the 10 people that got it better than me, for me that's power. For me that's leadership. For me that's education, and education is power and it's leadership. So I think for me it's just staying true to who you are and realizing how powerful your voice is.
Why do you think it's important to be a leader in the community?
Especially in our community, we don't see a lot of hijabi girls like in leadership or even, doing much, but it's getting better. I can say it's definitely getting better. A lot of children and young adults don't have people to look up to or to get advice from or to even see someone in that particular position. So it's important, especially for us. I'm going to take it back to like Muslims or whatever, because they can see hope and they can actually, think that they have a chance in the world too. Mm-hmm. So when I look at you, I think you're an amazing leader, especially for any young Muslim or girl or boy or whatever, seeing someone, wow, he actually got voted in and he's, somewhere where maybe I can be. You know what I'm saying? You're giving people hope. Because when you were younger, did you see any?
No.
Exactly.
The closest was a guy, Barack Hussein Obama.
There you go.
But to your point,
he made sure he said the Hussein part, by the way.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I could connect with him. Right?
Yeah,
100%, and that's why it's so important that we do pave the way and we do try to lead in the best way and be good examples and show our vulnerability and give advice and mentor and help people. Like that's why I keep saying mentor, because I feel like we lack that.
Yeah,
we lack the especially in our Yemeni community. I'm gonna throw shots at us first because this is where this is us. We don't have really like a big brother system or a big sister system where we're teaching our girls like, listen, take classes while you're in high school or whatever, just doing or start that business or you can do it. We lack that motivation from each other and that leadership within ourselves. And it's important because that's how we're only going to grow. That's how we're going to make a better society. It's how we're going to make a better community, a stronger community, and a more educated community. A lot of our problems come from us really not being educated, not knowing.
It's
and
funny.
We have to do our part.
It's funny to me, there's a lot of people that are so ready to say, oh, America doesn't show the representations of Arab. Oh, this, oh, that. But what are you doing to change that? What are you doing to, listen, if you're going to complain, I'm a nursing student, I get it, complain. But don't complain unless you have a solution lined up. And for me, that's important. So for me, I realize that our community doesn't have a Yemeniya voice, so I decided step up to that role, step it up, and I'm not perfect by all means, but I'm trying to do something that will hopefully bring me enough satisfaction to say that I fulfilled my purpose in this life, but then to also show representation to this community, which is even more important, right? So again, I urge everyone that whatever you're comfortable doing, find it. You don't have to, I'm not telling you to get on top of a podium and start speaking and go crazy. No, do what you're comfortable with, because there's power in everything. There's power in making a picnic table. There's power in drawing a little calligraphy, that whatever. So whatever you're good at or whatever you're known for, try to amplify it in servicing the greater good, because again, the power lays within.
And it's supporting one another.
Yes.
I know you mentioned before knocking on doors and talking to people. I remember when you were campaigning, I helped out for 2 days. And that was the most uncomfortable position I've ever been in. I didn't think I told my family, because they probably were like, what the hell are you doing knocking on people's doors? But I was partnered up with somebody. I forgot her name. I'm bad at names. But you never know who you're gonna see at the door. Yeah. And I'm like, listen, we gotta get this guy in, because he's our only kind of hope in a way, And honestly, you're like a little brother. So to me, it's like you gotta help people that are trying to stop downplaying people. Stop not like, if someone has a dream, push them, help them accomplish their dream. See, if you can do that,
لا عندهم by the way.
Mashallah, his sister, she's like very I was like, I don't know if I can do it. She's like, you can do it.
Yes, to go off on that, it's funny because and you say this a lot, it literally costs you nothing to support somebody. Literally, it's nothing. It's not even gonna take you a fraction of a time to like a post or to share a reel or to support, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not from hamtramck, I'm not from Detroit, and I remember your campaign vividly, right? And what can I do? I can't really do much, but you're from Hamtramck. I know you live in Hamtramck. Are you a registered voter? You know, that's what I was doing.
That's
and
organizing.
you know, and that's just on the sidelines because I can recognize there's somebody that is a representation of my people. And mind you, I didn't even read your principles yet. I didn't even read your laws, and I'm really big on that. I'm like, I don't care if he's Yemeni. Let me read what he's about. You know what I mean? So when I was like, oh my goodness. So then I started seeing a lot of Dearborn people, my brother included, like starting support Aiyash, and I'm like, what's going on? You're to reach out to me, and it was just history after that. But like, subhanallah, like you'll never know the correlation of what you can do on the sidelines, and they may never know it. They may never know it. You guys, like, especially when you're in a public position, the support that's happening behind closed doors, wallah, that's between you and God. Nobody could see that. But honestly, it's appreciated. I've been in so many situations where, I'm a Yemeni girl, newly being on social media, talking about serious, real topics that Yemeni people don't talk about. I talked about suicide. I talked about depression. I talked about stuff that they talked, you know? And then the little people that are defending or the people that are shutting it down. And I woke up one time to a whole page being like shut down, and I got a DM saying, well, Shema, we took care of this, da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, snap. Like, it's so appreciated. So again, like, leadership goes for both ways. Not as much as it helps you, it helps me too. And for somebody that deals with mental ailments, like I go through my experiences of depression and anxiety and all that good stuff, and that does numbers for me. Like, you know what I mean? That does numbers for my mental health. So again, thank you all for
I'm sorry, it's the last time I want to say, then you could talk. But I do want to applaud your ability to be open to reach out to the public.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I've never had a state rep send a letter to the House saying, hey, if you have any issues, reach out to me. And I got a letter, I'm like, seriously? Like, this is what's up. You know what I'm saying?
But not only this community.
I've never had that.
You have a big, like, in Dearborn, people know who you are. And you go to Dearborn Heights, people know, like, it's not just hamtramck Detroit. It's the surrounding metro Detroit cities. And that's family, that's unionship. That's what I want to see more of. And Abe, I'll tell you this. When I see people like you, and I'm telling you, I think the first time that I actually had an experience where it was one-on-one was, hey. Remember that? Do you remember that?
So that laugh sounds like he does.
So I was like, whoa, like I can recognize the hey was Yemeni too. It was so crazy. So then I was like, oh, okay. So then I recognize this guy is coming all the way to Dearborn for something that's just like a human rights problem. And for me, that's where unionship shows. Like you said, like for example, I'm not black. I don't know what's happening in the black community. Alhamdulillah, I can walk through the streets and know that I won't get, shut down for the color of my skin. But I care about it. Yeah. But I freaking care about it, and I'm here for it.
It's basic human rights.
It's basic human rights, and the fact that we're starting to normalize that is everything. And I'm not gonna lie, your relationship with Abdullah and how our cities are gonna start having this like unionship is so important because we were always so separate. So, and that's another big thing that we did with the show is we're trying to mend that. So I think maybe we should get Abe and Abdullah on the show.
I'm down for that. I thought what you were going to say that got you on board with the Abe Aiyash hype train was the fact that he went to Michigan State University, but that's not where you were going with that answer. So, but I like the hey one too. Maybe we could talk about that one. But in all seriousness, as somebody that's a leader, and I know you had your fair share of moments on social media and just in general with people maybe trying to attack you for the person that you are. So, maybe that's not it. I guess what is the toughest thing about being a leader and having your face out there? Like, what is the toughest thing that people should, take note of?
That's a heavy question. I think it's not what most people think about. It's not the harassment or scrutiny that you might be under as someone who's sort of in a quasi-public limelight.
I love how you said quasi, by the way. Because you, okay.
Yeah, I think it's more so your own personal sort of maintaining your humility throughout the process, right? You guys just spent like 10 minutes gassing me up, and I already have a big head, literally. So just being able to find that, and I think the other thing is, our prophet, peace be upon him, would always say, the best of you
are the best of you are those who are best to your family. And when you're in a position of where your principal focus is public service or giving something to a community beyond your own nuclear family, it is incredibly important to stay reminded and not neglect your family. You mentioned my sister 1,000 times.
I love her.
Yeah,
I love all of them actually.
I love her more, I hope. But she's somebody who my parents, my siblings, they are the reason why I was able to run and not have to struggle. I mean, I know the stories of other people who ran for office, and they're like, we had no support system, right? And I knew at the end of the day, no matter what happened, I always had my family in my corner. Even if they didn't understand the process, even though my mom was more worried, maybe took more offense to what people would say than I would, knowing that you sort of had that and like ensuring that you are consistently focused on your family, right? Because you are ultimately responsible for them. And I think that's the ultimate thing. And I have a lot of friends, who obviously my colleagues are all in this. And that's the biggest challenge that they find too, is finding that balance of giving, because it's easy for me to go out and present an image that is likable, that is well respected, that is received. Because if I don't, y'all reject me. Right? I can go home and be a jerk, but my mom's still gonna be my mom, right? My sister's still gonna be my sister, and that doesn't go away. And it's not that some people do have very, very strenuous relationships with biological family members, and that's unfortunate. But I think that's the most important thing. And then I think the other part is people always ask me, oh, what can I do to help you? How can we support you? For me, the biggest thing is I appreciate people who call me in before they call me out. That I know I'm going to make mistakes, right? We're all humans. We're not infallible. That when I screw up, I would hope that I have enough respect for you and vice versa that you can call me and say, hey, you really messed up here. And I hope that I have the humility to accept that from you and vice versa. And I think that's the most important thing, is finding a group of people who can constantly challenge you in that respect. Because, this is small potatoes. I'm not saying, obviously I'm incredibly honored to be state representative, but, I know people that are, obviously Abdullah's mayor of one of the, the top 10 largest cities in Michigan now, right? I think he would say the same thing, right? Having a group of people that can help you grow throughout the process, because people always expect you. It's almost like you're almost like the Pokemon that is fully evolved, right? Not recognizing that you need to constantly keep evolving. So for everybody, you're like Raichu, but in your mind, you got to stay a Pikachu over and over and over again. So.
The Pokemon references right there. Great points. I love it. And going on to the next one, I'm going to let you start off with this one, because I know you mentioned having somebody to look up to. So I guess how important it is for someone to find a person that they can look up to so that they can eventually be the leader that they want to be. You want to touch on that?
So 90% of people that are mentored become mentees, and I feel like that ensures that we're in good hands, So when you are young, in the beginning of your life, like I said before, you don't choose who your mentor is. You can be born into a family that is toxic, or is not supportive, or it's not, and then a lot of things can happen to you in that process. But then you get to an age where you can find your own mentors, or you become, or you have a teacher or a counselor or a coach that can help you. And honestly, I've seen kids that went from 0 to 100 because of a mentor, and then become and have a better life and can help their family, and then later on, pass it to the next generation. So I think it's very important. A lot of the times we really don't know, and to have someone kind of help you pave the way is the best thing that can happen to you. You could learn a lot of different methods and avoid a lot of problems by looking at somebody else's problems and go, that's not what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Or, okay, this person did it like this. If I, maybe I need to follow his direction, So I think it's very important, especially finding the right person to lead, not just anyone. You know what I'm saying? See what you want to do and what you want to be, and gravitate towards those people. I mean, I like to be the dumbest person in the room, so I can learn as much as I can. So.
Yeah, and finding the right person, because it can be overwhelming if you find the wrong person. Like, it can be a leader, but you're following the wrong person. Now you start questioning what it is that you're trying to pursue and what you're doing with your life, and it can be kind of overwhelming. And what is the famous quote? A smart person learns from their mistake, a wise person learns from the mistakes of others.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 great points, Abir. Shayma, same question to you. Why do you think it's important to find someone to look up to so that you can eventually be a leader?
I don't know how you guys are going to feel about my answer. I don't think it's important to find a leader. I think you need to be the leader that you know you need to become. See, I'm Muslim, and I ultimately know I have the greatest role model ever, right? So I don't need anybody physically to show me what I'm supposed to be in life. I have that will. So for somebody that has the will in them, mentorship is nice. I mean, don't get me wrong, it would have been great, but I'm not an example of somebody that had a mentor. Alhamdulillah, I had great people in my life that had good akhlaq, good character, and good relation with God. So for those are examples that I always looked at, like picked in, But to say that I actually had a mentor, somebody that like I wanted to mimic, or to say that somebody that had all of the attributions in life that I wanted to, become, no,
No, 100%. What?
But like I never had that like, oh, I look up to you. You know what I mean? I don't have a sister. I'm the oldest girl. All of my aunts were like kind of doing their own thing, so I never really had like a mentor. But I picked from everything. I learned. I was very, very, very observant. I still am, alhamdulillah. Like that's one of the attributes that I could say that I have is I'll learn, and I'll take it in to the point where I'm like, okay, so I like this, add this to this, take away from this, mold it, and then here you are, right? But in a sense, if there's not good people around you, because here's the thing, and again, I deal a lot of people with hamtramck, and a lot of the people, even in Dearborn, and actually literally everywhere, a lot of the people have become like single-minded, and they become like the same kind of, you can realize that the environment or the people that you're surrounding with are not the best of people. You should be doing better. You could be that better. The potential's in you, right? But there's nobody stepping up. There's nobody stepping up showing you how to be better. So then what? So then because you don't have that representation, you can't step up? That's the situation that I was in. You know what I mean? I realized everything that I didn't want to be because of the situation that I was in, to the point where I was able then to stand up and I don't even project this. I just am what I didn't want to be, basically. So again, like for somebody that didn't have a mentor, what do you do? Let me turn around and flip that question to you guys.
No, what I want to kind of explain is that a mentor doesn't have to be one person. It could be a friendtor, someone that just gives you advice here and there, like not specifically all the time, but you took that advice from them. So technically, someone influenced you in the right direction or whatever.
Right.
It could be the things that you watch. It could be a podcast that you're listening to. It can be, just anyone. You know what I'm saying? It's not a specific person, because I didn't have one person that was helping me throughout my life.
Well, honestly, to break it down like that, then honestly, my mentor would have been the masjid. I am a product of a masjid child.
Beautiful.
I grew up in the masjid. It wasn't individuals or whatever. It was the establishment of always being in a state of like goodness. You know what I mean? So for me, I mean, when I think somebody, you want to be good, right? You just want to be good. So again, I can relate that to maybe the masjid. So again, maybe that would be my mentor.
How about you, Abe? I guess we're not really talking about who your mentor was, but how important it is for someone to find a person that they can look up to so that they can eventually be a leader.
I think it's incredibly important, and it's not necessarily finding one person to model your life after. I think it's finding people that you can trust, in that that when they come to you when you go to them for guidance or for counsel, that they ultimately are passionate about your success, but not blinded by their love for you, right? So I always say, your mother might not be the best person to mentor you in some, especially boys, right? I'm a mama's boy, so I can tell you that. But in that, finding people both who are achieving things that you want to achieve and also have failed, right? I look to people that have made incredible mistakes in their lives, and I actually talk to them often, because I want to learn, all right, how did you get to this point in your life, or what was your biggest struggle, or what was your biggest obstacle, so on and so forth. But yeah, for me, as someone who's in this space, I first prioritize having a spiritual mentor, right? And not everybody has this privilege, right? But I first and foremost focus on finding somebody that I can lean to, because it can be tough in politics, and it's not a blood-sucking machine that everybody talks about, but it can be frustrating sometimes. So finding that person, right, that I can call and say, look, I just need some spiritual recharge. And then someone that you believe has your best interests. I always say my closest political confidant is a gay atheist Jew. Very, very juxtaposed to who I am, very different. But this is somebody who I have deep trust for, and I know that in the end they will push me to do what is best, recognizing who I am, making sure that they're pushing me to do what is best in terms of any time I call them for decision making. So, that I think is super important. And then recognize that you don't put all your faith and trust in this person, because that folks are going to disappoint, not because they're bad people, but because we're all folks that can be, we all have struggles.
We're all human.
Yeah, we're all human. So, the best advice I got is very, very simple, right? Take the good and leave the bad.
Yeah.
It's really that simple, right? And it's in our tradition, and this is the concept of istikhara. It's not simply this idea before you make a big decision. For those that don't know, you pray before making a big decision in your life. It's not just praying and then expecting like something to fall out of the sky and that's your decision, right? You do istikhara to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you do ibtishar, then you you seek guidance from people whom you trust, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think about this decision? When I was going to run for this state house seat, it was a tough decision to make. I mean, it was in the middle of the pandemic. We had like a week to make the decision, and I swear to you, my initial thought was not to do it. I told myself, I don't know if I want to do it, and I called like 16 people. But what you don't want to have is the paralysis of opinion, right? Yeah. When you talk to too many people, they give you too many different views, and then you're like, oh shoot, what do I do?
Yeah. Even worse from where you began.
Yeah. So finding that person or people who you trust, who care about your well-being, but also are willing to challenge you and say, this is not for you, chief. Like, step back, or step forward. And that takes a bit of time. So specifically for young people, I wanna get into this. For young people seeking like career advice, something like that. And I know Shema, you said something about people, for example, in hamtramck might have the same mindset, right? In terms of everybody wants to follow this career path or follow this course. I've seen two flavors of this. The person is like, I want to be different just to be different. So like they always like just to be the odd man out. And I always ask folks, like, what's your motivation for wanting to be different, right? Why do you want to be so unique? Or why do you think, okay, I'm not going to do this particular career path because everyone else is doing it? Well, that's not a wise reason to do or not do something, right? Or I'm not going to talk to this person because everybody's doing this, so screw it. Everybody's a nurse, I don't want to do nursing. Everybody's a pharmacist, I don't want to do pharmacy, right?
Oh my God, that's great, because the minute my brother and my sister declared they were going to be nurses, I said the same thing. I was like, oh man, why did I pick the field that everybody picked? So,
But no, to that point, I think some people always got to ask themselves, all right, like, why am I so bothered
right.
by doing
right.
If everybody drives a Jeep because Jeeps are best for snow, well, maybe there's a reason why to do that. You're not. Or if everybody has an iPhone, it's like, oh, I'm gonna get a Pixel just to like
be the, yeah.
And it's like, don't punish us with the green bubbles, please. But on a more serious note, by the way, I used to have an Android too, so I have no hate for my green bubble.
No, there's this thing that they said that the most stubborn people are people that have Androids. But
right. But to young folks' advice on this, it's like, take a step back and like, if it's rooted in resentment, I think there's a bigger issue, right?
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, I hear this all the time from like young folks. Oh, like I hate hamtramck Yemenis, or I hate. You're like, well, why? There could be things that you want to like. There are certainly things that I wish were better
from a communal perspective. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, right? Take the good and leave the bad. So.
Did you write?
No, I was just writing thoughts. He said something that I liked that I just wrote it down.
Okay. And here we go. There's full hate for the green bubbles. Okay, that is Jihan Aiyash. Shout out to Jihan. Definitely, we can all agree with that, right? The green bubbles. We're not a green bubble team at this table. So basically, we talked.
In fact, funny story. I'm sorry, but Abdullah Hamoud had an Android. So a bunch, there's 4 of us state reps who call ourselves the Brown Boy Caucus. Me, Darren, Ranjib, Abdullah. We actually have a group chat, and we kept Abdullah out because we said you had
green bubbles.
And one night,
changed the messages to green.
We had one with him, but we stopped using it. So one night we had this whole night of jokes, we were laughing and all this in the blue bubble chat. And then the next day we came to work, we're all talking about it. And then Abdullah's like, what are you guys laughing about? And then we said, oh, how? We're showing each other the videos. And then he's like, damn it. And I was like, you should have had an iPhone. Yeah. And then, so our friend Darren tried for 5 years to get Abdullah to switch to an iPhone. He would not budge. And then because the 3 of us, because he felt left out, he said FOMO is the reason why he ended up getting an iPhone.
Wow,
there you
that's
go.
great.
We did a service for the city of Dearborn.
There you
You're
guys
welcome.
go.
Brian is servicing, making sure people got iPhones, making sure people are taken care of, treated fairly. Listen, I was gonna talk. People call Brahim, politician, right? Because that's what he does. Works in the political field. But I look at him more of a protector. Okay, he was a protector.
Voice too.
Let me tell you what I mean by this. Okay, in high school, he was on the line protecting the quarterback. You know what I'm saying?
Apparently not all the time.
He's on the front lines. He's on the front line, yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes.
I'm messing around.
He's on the front lines protecting the quarterback. Now he's on the front lines protecting the citizens. You know what I'm saying? So I was gonna mention this.
Dang, the fact that you played center is the fact that you played center football in high school basically foreshadowed what you're gonna be as the people for us many years later. So there you go. That's crazy.
The main protector. So that's funny. So yes, he is an elected official. That is your sister. My bad. I apologize. I called you a politician.
Oh, politician's fine. People always say, oh, politician, you're a politician. It's a derogatory phrase. I'm like, look, yeah, literally by definition, I play in politics. So, I don't take offense. So, you're a politician. It's so for those of you out there who always crack jokes about it, you can keep cracking jokes. I'll pretend to be hurt, but I really don't care. Call me a politician.
I'm gonna start calling you.
I really think he doesn't even know the jargon. I didn't see it as
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah,
I
am elected official, politician. It's all the same.
I was gonna say that.
I don't care.
Okay, elected official. So we talked about Yemen, right? Mm-hmm. We talked about the situation in the courtrooms. We talked about being a leader. I guess final words, for all of us. Starting off with you, Shay. What is your final word about everything that we kind of discussed and future advice, anything like that?
Okay, try to tie it all up. 1, obviously build to yourself, because the minute you water yourself and your flowers growing, right, you can then help others. So make sure you're set, you're good. And then immediately after, as you're figuring out yourself, you need to be servicing other people. So when you can find that moving circle, keep it going. Keep it going. Don't fall off. There's a sunnah of our religion. Basically, there's a sunnah to staying busy, and staying busy, you realize how much good you're doing while you're busy. So for me, I think a good way to tie in leadership, Yemen, and the thing that's going on with basically fairness, equality, is voice the things that you're dealing with, voice the things that you're struggling with. Do good by people, because obviously if you're struggling, people are struggling too. So now you have the opportunity, you have the voice, you have the resources to then project a story or project a situation that's happening for you or for the greater good, right? And then reflect it, actually apply it to your life, and then do some reflection on it. So it's very, very important to actually be aware, then apply, and then execute, and then reflect. So if you can figure out how to make that circle flow, you're golden. You're golden in life. And I think that's it for me.
Very good job. Abdullah Haydara and Unfiltered Intuition said, Ibrahim's a great dude. Really enjoyed listening to this podcast. You know, we had Abdullah on the show. Great guy, by the way.
Mic drop.
Yes, mic drop, by the way.
You see that, Abdullah?
Yeah.
I was raised
We
with
should
Abdullah,
start holding the
you know?
mics like that, by the way. Just start doing
Being
conversation.
crazy.
Yeah.
Alright, guys, let's do this.
There we go. But in all seriousness,
I move my hands way
I
too
agree
much.
with Ibrahim, by the way. I mean, agree with Abdullah about Ibrahim. Great guy. By the way, Abdullah, next week, Tuesday, Riverside, playing against Hanley. Come through.
Oh, no.
5 o'clock, Hanley International Academy. We are a middle of a pack team, man, so we ain't gonna talk no smack. I can tell you that
I
before the
know.
game.
Oh, is this Abdullah Al City?
No, I hate it. Abdullah.
Abdullah Southern Abdullah.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
By the way, just throwing it out there, Ramsey plays on the team. Ramsey's been killing it on the camera right now. I've been watching. Ramsey's doing a great job of zooming in and out. You guys are gonna like this show because we have the guy doing the in and out. We usually only have him for the Movement podcast, but he is going in and out this whole day today. So if y'all watch it later on today, you guys enjoyed the zooming in and out.
Thanks,
Shout out to my
Ram.
man Rambo. He is probably got closer to the heater while he's doing this. That's probably what he did. I mean, it's on you, basically. Final word on the whole situation.
So the thing that I would say is basically educate yourself with everything. I feel like a lot of our issues come from us not knowing our rights or our, why things are the way that they are, or the laws in our community, or anything. We feel so scared to visit the courts or whatever because we don't know ourselves. So educate yourselves, educate your families, support one another, vote. Honestly, I think that's like the biggest thing is vote, because look, now we finally got somebody in, you know what I'm saying? We got a plug. So
Yeah.
do your part and vote. And I'm just saying.
Well, that was so spot on. Right
I'm
on.
just saying,
Yeah, well.
and just do your part. Focus on yourself. I feel like if you can help somebody, help somebody.
Yeah.
Like, work on yourself. No one's perfect. Get with it.
Okay, so I got a couple of comments. First of all, Abdullah said he's the coach of the team, so that's gonna be hilarious.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna be asking referees
Wait,
to give him a
what
check.
the heck is going on? Because now there's something Dearborn affiliated that I want to be able to talk smack. So
Well,
where am I going to?
Tuesday, 5 o'clock.
Tomorrow?
Next
Is
week.
it our
Next
our
week, Tuesday, yes.
Okay.
Hanley, we're playing against Abdullah Haydara's team, Riverside, and he is coaching them, which we did not know
Abdullah,
that.
man, you better put these boys in boot camp.
We
better not disappoint.
We can't talk smack this year. I would usually be able to talk smack, but we can't.
Well, you guys bring it on. You guys have been
Listen.
talking 6 Mile. You've been talking hamtramck this, hamtramck that.
Listen, we're all about coming together, right? We ain't gonna.
I
We're not.
I
Gonna,
get to finally represent. This is about representation here.
Oh, we're not-
I'm sitting here like, hey,
we're not gonna just fold, by the way. We're gonna make sure that Ellie's ready to play, all right?
What
I need a
We're gonna make
Riverside
sure that-
sweat jacket. I need a
Huskies?
Riverside
Go
hat.
Huskies.
Yes, the Huskies.
I need a Riverside hat. I need a Riverside sweater. We're doing this.
Jihan said, I mean, stop censoring your thoughts. You're being polite.
I'm trying to, you know how I do it. So,
Are you?
not really. I mean, I feel like it's not our show today. Like, this is all.
No,
about,
no,
you
no.
know.
I'm
trying to.
I'm a guest on this show. I'm not.
I know, but I am a little bit reserved because I do want to make sure that he has
No,
enough time.
please don't.
Okay. Well,
I'm
end.
gonna give my time back to you now.
No, I'm good. I said what I said, and that's it.
so Ibrahim, first of all, thank you for being here, man. You've
I appreciate you having me.
educated us, educated whoever was watching. Shout out to Khaled, by the way. Give it always saying shout out to Oz Media, by the way. Kel Trey. Say it with your chest, she said, by the way.
Is
So-
it Oz Media or OZ Media?
Both.
Either way. Yeah, either way. But
What do you prefer?
Oz Media.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna stick with that.
So,
Wait, can I say something?
yes.
For Jihan, she's literally my role model. Even though she's younger than me, like, I would have to give it to her for actually. I mean, she was an elected official before you were.
She was. That is.
You know
very
what I'm
true.
saying? So let's put that on the.
Yeah, we'll give her
you
a
know
round
what
of
I'm saying?
applause. Yeah, for
So
sure. Give her
shout
some
out
round
to
of applause.
Jihan. I love you. I appreciate you.
Class of 2010, by the way, hamtramck High School,
Valedictorian.
Jihan. Yes, she,
Mashallah.
mashallah,
Rockstar.
she did it all, did it all
Rockstar.
the right way. An amazing classmate. I remember I had a poem one time, and she was supposed to follow me up on that day, and it was when y'all were in Yemen. I don't know if you remember that. You guys were in Yemen, so I kind of wrote a poem about them being in Yemen, and had
He
the
gets
class
emotional.
tear up. And I ain't gonna lie, I was starting to get tear up, and I looked up and everybody was crying, and Jen was like, I am not going next. I don't care. We literally, like the rest of the day we just talked because the teacher didn't let anybody else go next. Cause everybody got emotional that day, so I remember that moment. But going back to you, Ibrahim, is we talked about a lot of different things today. So I guess, if you want to wrap it up, and then also maybe even let people know again one more time about the protest that's going to be happening this Friday too as well. But
So I'll start with that. So the protest, I'm not an organizer. I actually don't know who organized it.
I just know
But-
it's some, Yemeni activist trying to do their thing. It is a Friday. It's at 3 p.m.
At the Henry Ford Centennial Library, which is, again,
Yeah.
Michigan Ave. If you're heading westbound down Michigan Ave, it's right past Greenfield, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So you'll just look it up, Henry Ford Library on Michigan Ave in Dearborn. That's at 3 o'clock on Friday. So if you're going to go to Jumu'ah, maybe go to like a 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock Jumu'ah and then head there right away.
Yeah, honestly, I think that would actually be a really a solid point to like reiterate the fact that people do Sunday in Dearborn a lot, and then maybe trying to like swing it later, because 3 o'clock, that was the only thing that I was a little bit concerned about. Like, I'm not going to be able to make it to the protest because of time. But now that the Salah thing, I think I'm going to be able to swing it. So.
And bundle up.
Yep.
Yeah, and then like Jen said also, please, if you're COVID positive, obviously do not go. Masks on, even though we're outside, because we're all going to be really close to each other too.
Yeah.
Right.
So to that point, get your boosters. If you have not gotten the vaccine, 210 million Americans have gotten the shot. This is a conspiracy to take Americans out and the world out and whatnot at work. So
Listen, 4 billion people got vaccinated. You know what I mean? If you can't beat them, join them, you guys. Call us.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
4 billion people got vaccinated.
God.
That means only 3 billion left. Just do it already. I want to go to the 3 billion and tell them, you guys, look.
Well,
you
here's
got
the
that
thing.
car.
Here's the
First
thing.
show.
Some of the people not
You've come a
doing
long
it
way.
across the world.
Why?
Oh, really?
With her. Come a long way. Remember our first show?
Oh no, I you guys want to know? This is what happened to me. Would you like to be a nursing student still?
Oh,
Get
take
vaccinated.
me.
So I was like, can't beat them, join them. So now I advocate. I swear to God. Voila. I'm like, just do it, guys. If I had to, you have to.
If you're gonna be a zombie, everyone else is gonna be a zombie,
That's what I
right?
said.
Well, here's
The
the thing.
theories, the
You
conspiracy
said-
theories have definitely switched now. Now that I'm vaccinated, I think they want to protect the vaccinated. And so I'm telling you, my theories have definitely switched. So
Well, you said
It is what it is.
3 billion people. I mean, some parts of the world just don't have. Like Yemen has what,
Access.
30 million people?
Right,
They don't have
right.
access to the vaccine.
right.
So it's like there's certain parts of the world that just don't have access, and for us to have the blessing where every pharmacy you go to, every doctor's office you go to, and this is free, right? You know, I have a friend who can't work for the next week. He wouldn't get the vaccine. Calculated how much money he lost because he's not able to work. He's lost $1,500 worth of profit he could have made if he went to work. And I don't want to disclose what he does, but $1,500 because he wouldn't get a free 99 shot, and he's out with COVID. And I will tell you, the worst thing that you can do is you want to show leadership, get the damn shot, because
I mean,
if you unknowingly spread COVID to somebody, you don't know what that person could be. It could be someone's death sentence, right? You may just be chilling with your friend. That person goes home to a parent who may be vulnerable, and the next thing you know, that parent's on a ventilator. In fact, someone who lives by the masjid just spent several months in the hospital, just got out, now has to undergo rehab. Very nice guy. And it's disappointing because it's like, if people are just more diligent and got the vaccine, the overall spread, and in hamtramck it happens a lot. So there's an unfortunate reality that a lot of folks won't get the vaccine, but at this point, it is extremely selfish if you don't. And if you have some serious doubts, right, just like we trust folks, you trust the bank when you go put your money in the bank, right? You don't expect that the money's going to disappear in 2 weeks or in 5 or 6 or 10 years. So if you can trust a government-backed entity to store your money, then, I would say be respectful and sort of understand all of the research and all of the work that has gone through. And I'm not going to belittle anybody who doesn't want to get the vaccine because of fear, but, there comes a certain point where there's enough data and exposure. There's no microchips,
This is not.
I'm not gonna lie to you though, wallah al-azim, the first thing that I did when I got vaccinated is I went and I got a magnet and I tried to put it on my arm. Didn't work. It was a TikTok big trend. So I'm telling you, my conspiracies have changed so much. But I will tell you, the theory about the government and then protection, for me now when I tell people about the vaccine, I tell them this. Have you ever flown on a plane? And they're like, yeah, whatever. I'm like, okay, that takes a lot of trust, right? You're literally thousands of feet in the air. And you do it, and you get safe, and you're fine. I mean, yeah, your ears popped. Yeah, yeah. Listen, no, hold on, it works. Yeah, you were nauseous. Yeah, you might have lost your bag. But you're safe. You know what I mean? And that's how I look at the COVID vaccine. I got sick after I got my vaccine. I took a ring ride. I mean, I'm a nursing student, so me even having to like lose 3 days of school, that was detrimental to my grade, to my program, you know? But I'm fine. And you know what? I can honestly say that I'm on, like, that's it. I don't have to be the one that's saying, oh, I can't do this because I'm not this, or, you know, I did it, and inshallah, like, I haven't gotten sick with COVID yet, so I'm just hoping that I still don't, and I get to say thank you vaccine. You know what I mean? And obviously that takes time. So before you can hate on something, you have to be a person that actually does it. Like, I get the people that are vaccinated and they're having their issues, and they're the people that are saying, okay, don't take the vaccine, da 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 da. But the people that are out here just, oh, there's this inside the vaccine, or there's this and then, like, are you vaccinated? No, so why are you talking? Like, how is it valid anymore? You know what I mean? So again, me getting vaccinated a lot to my pride. So thank you, COVID-19.
So Jihan said, you know, there is validity around the vaccine, fear in the communities of color, and vaccines work. Please do it if you have the access. Abe just said it. Public health is an Islamic principle. Mm-hmm. We are obligated as Muslims to take care of our neighbors. Okay.
Absolutely.
First of all, again, I know I said this already, but thank you so much for being here today. Very busy man, and for you to stop by here, man, it really does mean a lot. Being from the same community, you know, growing up together and stuff like this, and, you know, taking time out of your day to come over here, appreciate it, and blessing people and educating people.
I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, for sure, man.
I'm took 21 episodes, man.
Yeah, and dude, yeah, I literally told her, I was like, listen,
we're saving him for
we're saving him for a good moment. And subhanAllah, exactly what I told her. I was like, let's build it up, and then we're gonna start reaching out to the big guns. Yeah, so we definitely
not guns, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, he's actually anti-guns. If you follow his.
No, I'm not. I'm not anti-gun.
Oh.
No, I
warfare.
Yeah, it's complicated, right?
Yeah.
I think. I just believe that we need gun responsibility.
Yes.
Just like someone who drives a car has to meet certain metrics of responsibility. If you own a gun, same thing.
Yes.
Anyway, that's another policy rabbit hole. But just
another day, another show, right?
Sure, why not? Why not?
I have somebody over here that's for it, and then you could be somebody that's.
We have a debate. Sure, why not?
Have a nice debate about it. Brahim would definitely love to have you on again. What are you laughing about?
I just got an email saying
exposure. COVID-19?
COVID-19, dear students, my God, that's so bad.
Student in the classroom.
Get vaccinated, y'all, please.
Yes, get vaccinated for everybody's sake. This was another episode of the Table Talk Podcast, episode 21. We go live on Oz Media 313's YouTube page, so if you want to watch us, Oz Media. And if you want to listen to us, the show, it goes on Oz Media, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. Again, our guest today was Ibrahim Aiyash, co-host Shema Gharib and Abir Thabit as well. My name is Umar Thabit. Thank you all for tuning in for these next 3 weeks. I know it's a Monday. We usually do Tuesdays, but for these next 3 weeks, actually, because we have to be at games and stuff for the last end of the season, because Abdullah Qasari is at Umrah, so alhamdulillah he has arrived, and inshallah may Allah accept his whole journey over there. Mm-hmm. And so next week Monday, I know it's tax season, we're going to have Kazu Ahmed Al-Sufi on the show, and then the whole month of February we have Black History Month programming, where all of our guests are going to talk about topics about Black History Month, just talking about the empowerment, shed light. You know, we have some great people on the show for next month as well. So these next few weeks, I'm looking forward to it, and educating, right? That's the whole point. We talked about education being a big key part of being a leader. So hopefully we can educate and help. Ibrahim, thanks again. This whole show deserves a final round of applause.
I think he was going to say something too.
Well, I just want to say to his point, education doesn't have to be necessarily
formal training in a classroom, I would encourage everybody, especially if you're a Muslim in America, go buy the autobiography of Malcolm X. You can get it for like $4 on the internet. Read that book.
Freaking
it is transformational. It is why so many people converted to Islam, inspired by his story. And as Muslims living in this country, as Americans, we really got to understand the history of his life as it pertains to the legacy of Black America. So heading into Black History Month, buy that book. It's pocketable. It's actually pretty small. It's about the size of an iPhone Pro Max. Yeah, it's pretty massive. So you can put it in your back pocket, carry it around, whatever. It's not like a big old classic book. So anyway, that's a really good book. I think it's a transformational book. And heading into Black History Month, it's something I recommend everybody do. 15 minutes a day. That's all I'm asking is if you sit at home for 15 minutes a day, just read the autobiography of Malcolm X and put it down if you're bored. If you commit to that, you'll finish the book hopefully by the end of Black History Month. So
That's awesome. Thank you for that advice, Ibrahim. Thank you for everybody that watching. We will see you all next week, Monday at 7 o'clock p.m. Take it easy. Have a good one.